Let's now turn our attentions to the education sector, where stakeholders have raised eyebrows over the increasing number of abandoned projects in colleges of education across the country. The civil society organizations contend that despite the allocation of 480 million Ghana cedis for the construction of 300-bed capacity hostels in all 45 colleges of education, only 3 were at various stages of construction by the end of the year 2023, with the remaining stalled due to the lack of funding. Citi News' Ni Ayuki has more details in this report.
A review of Ghana's education sector by the Africa Education Watch, EDUWATCH, Institute for Education Studies, IFEST, and over 50 civil society organizations in the sector reveals that despite the announcement of 480 million Ghana cedis for the construction of a 300-bed capacity hostels in 2023 in all colleges of education, only 3 had construction works ongoing, with the remaining stalled due to the lack of funding. The CSOs bemoan that the situation has contributed to an imposition of 30% cut in admissions in colleges of education, reducing the intake of students by over 6,000.
That is the sad reality. If you go to our colleges of education, if you go to Gabagaba College of Education, for instance, there's a 350 to 400 bed hostel that has been abandoned for close to 9 or 10 years. It has been roofed, okay? But last 2 years, government gave contracts for a new hostel project. When this one that has already been roofed could have been completed with just a quarter of the money. Government awarded a new contract for a new 300 bed hostel, which has stalled at foundation level. So you go to many of the colleges where these hostel projects have stalled for the past 1.5 years. You will see that there are abandoned hostel projects, some of them up to the lintel and roofing level, but they won't continue. So we raised the issue about our college of education gradually becoming a museum of abandoned projects.
The report also suggests that only 39% of WASI candidates were probably progressing to tertiary institutions in the ensuing academic year, suggesting that up to 250,000 secondary school graduates do not make it to tertiary annually. The CSOs say the 50% increase in second cycle enrollment because of free SHS policy makes the situation dire, with negative consequences for youth unemployment.
As a result of free senior high school, the number of graduates who leave our secondary schools have increased. We have increased enrollment in secondary education by 50% as a result of free senior high school. So if you are producing about 450,000 students a year, you can't afford to be doing 40% tertiary transition. The meaning is that you will be producing over 250,000 secondary graduates who will not find anywhere to go. They are going to become unemployed. And in a country where unemployment and youth unemployment, for that matter, is a serious problem, a national security threat, you don't want to encourage such numbers. And we are in an era where we are seeing over 60% of students getting passes in the WASI core. Once you get passes in the WASI core, it means that you have about 90% chance of qualifying for university. Why are we not seeing a commensurate increase in the percentage of students going to tertiary? Why are we still at 40? Over the last time I checked, it was 39. Why are we still at 39 and not 60 or 55? And so we think that the financial access barriers, are key inhibitants for poor children, of children from poor households to access tertiary education, even though they wanted to pass secondary education. So we've called on the government to reposition the student loan scheme, to look also at prospective students.
At the basic school level, it was revealed that over 5,300 schools remain under trees, sheds and dilapidated structures across the country, with less than 40 new school buildings constructed in 2023 to address the challenge. It is estimated that Ghana would be able to completely eradicate schools under trees in 130 years' time. It adds that over 1 million desks were required by 2022 at the basic school level, That notwithstanding, with the 2023 Get Fund allocation of 15 million Ghana cedis for basic school furniture, only 6 million was released in late 2023, and no decks was purchased from the 2023 allocation.
We recognize that we still haven't made very good progress in eliminating the school salary trees, sheds, and dilapidated structures. If you recall, 4 years ago, government launched a program in partnership with the EDUWATCH Trust Fund to eliminate all 5,403 school salary trees, sheds, and dilapidated structures. And the plan was to eliminate them in 5 years. We are in year 4 now. And when we did the stock taking last year, then doing the review, we realized that less than 40 were replaced, or if you like, completed, were constructed and replaced in that particular year. And it meant that we still had about 5,300 existing schools under trees, sheds, and dilapidated structures to remove, with barely a year to go to the finish line of the government's whole plan. And if we reckon the pace that we have been approaching this target since 2021, it meant that it would take Ghana 130 years to remove all schools under trees and sheds. And so we've called for an acceleration of government's efforts to remove the schools under trees, and a renewed political commitment to providing funding to implement this particular important intervention.
At the tertiary level, data suggests that at the end of the 2023 academic year, loans owed students by the Student Loan Trust Fund was more than 50 million Ghana cedis due to inadequate funding of the scheme by the government. Thus, the CSO say has limited successful applicants to only 70%, causing undue delays in the payment of approved loans. Indeed, there is no doubt that strides have been made in the education sector. That notwithstanding, stakeholders say there are lots of challenges still battling the education sector that ought to be addressed. Reporting for Citi News, my name is Ni Ayikwe Okain.
Still in education, the ongoing struggle for adequate housing among students in various tertiary institutions significantly impacts their academic pursuits. In a quest for solutions, key stakeholders in the education sector engage in discussions, as reported by Citi News' Philip Nilate.
Rapid growth in student enrollment at tertiary institutions intensifies pressure on infrastructure, especially accommodation and hostel facilities. Consequently, students grapple with exorbitant hostel fees, shared accommodations, or commuting for lectures. The National Union of Ghana Students, NUGS, advocates for a resolution by urging the expansion of funds allocated to Ghana Education Trust Fund, GET Fund, championed by NUGS President Treme Opon Daniel.
Accommodation issues has been one of the issues we've been discussing at our front for the past almost 5 years now. Each and every year we are having issues, and one disheartening and worrying issue is, as we speak, for the past years, we've been having most of our students sleeping in libraries, sleeping in uncomfortable places because they are unable to pay for accommodation fees. Good enough, this particular government really values and cherishes education. So implemented the free senior high school, which has seen a huge number moving from 900,000 to almost 1.4 million students who are in the senior high school. So clearly, we could see that each and every year, the senior free SHS is churning out huge number of students. So it puts a lot of pressure on the various universities. One of our main issues has always been the fact that there's, in every country, in every jurisdiction, there's a fund that funds education in the country. As we are advocating for private individuals to come in, build more hostels and all that, we are looking at the main foundational error, which has to do with the capping of GET Fund.
Management teams in tertiary institutions call for robust measures to tackle the accommodation challenge. Vice Chancellor stressed the importance of collaboration with the private sector to devise solutions. Acting Vice Chancellor of the Accra Technical University, Professor Amevi Akapovi, highlights the crucial role developers play in resolving accommodation issues.
Accommodation for students is quite important for our survival, because As I mentioned, we do care to enhance our student activities on campus. And so far, our capacity to accommodate students is not up to the 10% of the student population we have. So, of course, we have an approval by the council as I speak to come up with a 6-story building. But that, again, will not still meet our target of attaining the 25% in the next 5 years. So we are counting on investors, private companies who think that they can support us in any form, be it BOT or any other forms. Please come on board. Let us discuss and how you can come with, student accommodation on campus and find means and way to get back your investment.
In response to institutional request, Sami Amegaibo, Executive Secretary of the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association, GREDA, proposes the establishment of a government policy governing agreements between tertiary institutions and developers.
The intake of students is getting higher and higher. Vis-a-vis the kind of accommodation that exists is always not sufficient enough to take care of them. So we are aware that it has existed for a long time. So it calls for private partnership as well. And so you realize that some of these universities and tertiary institutions started partnering private developers to try and provide accommodation. So some developers, GREDA members, a few of them went into some of this partnership. But it hasn't been that easy. When you are sitting on the fence or you are outside, you think it is so lucrative and so easy and that you want to go into it, but it's not the case. It's very expensive to put the project together, and it takes a long time to recover your costs. Necessary structures. Structures has to do with policy. First of all, policy is very important. If you put up policy, it guides the relation. If there are no policies and the vice chancellors in their term will sit with you and agree on something, when their term is over, they go away because it's not a policy that is existing in the edition. Another vice chancellor comes, he says, "So this agreement that you guys signed, I don't think it's nice. Let me review it." There must be a standing policy.
Dr. Clement Park, Deputy Ranking Member on the Education Committee of Parliament, recognizes the persistence of the challenges, attributing exacerbated accommodation woes on campuses to implementation of the free senior high school policy. He underscores the imperative for effective collaboration among all education sector stakeholders to address this pressing challenge.
Well, I think it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because we have failed, and in particular, the Akufo-Addo Bawumia-led MPP government has failed to invest in expanding both academic and residential accommodation at a tertiary level. And I say so because having introduced the free senior high school policy, it was obvious that the number of students who were going to qualify to enter tertiary institutions was going to increase. And yet, the fixation has and continues to be at the secondary school level to the detriment of the tertiary level. So the question you ask is this: what is the point of increasing access to secondary education and invariably restricting access to tertiary education? Well, in the long term would mean that we need to put more resources at the disposal of tertiary education. In the long term would mean that government ought to listen to the clarion call to decap Get Fund.
It is obvious that the accommodation challenges on various campuses across the country may worsen if stakeholders within the education space do not find a lasting solution to the problem on time. Reporting for Citi News, my name is Philip Latte.